We are back with a new route for you. I'm Tom, bike packer, ultra racer and all-round cycling fanatic. And this is the New Forest Ghostly Gravel. So starting down at the train station in Brockenhurst today. Easy to get to for lots of people without a car. But of course, if you've got a car or you've got a bike, you could start this route from anywhere. The handy thing if you don't have a bike is Brockenhurst has a number of bike hire options, so anyone can enjoy this route. Anyway, let's get underway, get through to town and get on that gravel. So not long after leaving Brockenhurst, we're onto some fantastic gravel. Disused railway line, nice warm up for the ride, which is 66.6 kilometers long, and we're going to stop off at some of the spooky places in the New Forest. So we'll get warm on this fairly chilly October's day and make our way over to the first site of spooky interest. So yeah, this is disused railway line, used to run all the way from Brockenhurst up to Ringwood and then down to Poole. Nice way to explore the forest and beyond. And we're into that time of the year where it's quite hard to get your cycling outfit right. You're either too hot or too cold, and you're starting to pull that winter gear out again, finding it doesn't either fit, or in my case, the dog's got hold of it. So it looks like some new gloves will be required. I should probably say before I forget, if you want the route, there'll be links to it in the description below, so you can download it and ride it yourself. So just making a little diversion off the disused railway line to Wilverley enclosure, somewhere I've not featured on any of my routes before. There's a wood with some nice trails in it and that first spooky spot to explore. So back off that road into Wilverley, through the car park, and then we'll be on some nice trails. And these are the type of trails New Forest is famous for. Lovely gravel as we make our way over to try and find this first mystery spot. Trying to keep a lookout for something called the Naked Man Tree, and I'll explain more when I find it. So this is the first spot known as the Naked Man Tree. Don't think it's that tree there growing today. I think it's the remains of an oak tree that are in there somewhere. Supposedly they used to hang highwaymen and smugglers, leaving their bodies to swing in the air for all to see. As you can see, there's not too much left of that said tree today. Up here, Wilverley Common is haunted by the ghosts of those criminals. So I'm not going to hang around here, head towards Burley and find that next spooky spot. Couple of little sloppy bits there to get us back towards the good gravel. If it's really bad, you can probably go around it in the woods. Lovely colours in here today, sea of leaves on the floor. Just another lovely little woodland, little loop round here. Lovely trees, lovely gravel, lovely smells and lovely colours. What more could you want on a Sunday ride? So just coming out of Wilverley enclosure towards this road here, go out this gate, turn right. Then we're on the road for maybe half a mile, something like that, not very far. And then we're back on that disused railway line. Oh, there you go. So we're going to turn off here at Holmesy Tea Rooms, cut back across through this gate and then on to the railway line again. Well, disused railway line. So back on that railway line, lovely and flat, well, a little bit windy for me today, taking us pretty much all the way to Burley. Always gets a little bit sloppy towards the top before we get to near the road to Burley. So after that railway line, short little stint along the road towards Burley, but before we get to the village proper, we turn off Castle Hill Lane. If you wanted, you could carry on, drop into Burley, grab a coffee, maybe a bit of cake. But there's plenty of places to stop later into the ride. So left here to Castle Hill Lane as we begin a little mini climb up Burley Beacon, which is actually home to our second spooky spot, and I'll tell you a bit more when we get up there. Sounds quite high up, but in reality we're only about 75 metres above sea level. Now the legend goes that the Bisterne Dragon lived up here. You can imagine the dragon sleeping somewhere in these woods, and the Bisterne Dragon used to head out and terrorise the people of Bisterne. Apparently it started quite nice, he'd just go down there for some milk, and then one day he started taking the animals, and then he started taking people. So the villagers were terrified of the Bisterne Dragon, and we'll hear a bit more about that dragon a little bit further into the ride and the fate he met at the hands of a knight. But for us, hopefully no dragons here today, just some more nice gravel really. See across the heaths from Castle Hill Lane. Imagine the dragon flying over that way towards Bisterne, probably about 3 miles away, claiming his victims. Now after Castle Hill Lane we're going to drop onto the road for a minute, go up a hill, not too steep, well not too far, it's a little bit steep, and then we back off road again on some single track alongside the road, and then we'll be dipping under the A31 to one of my favourite bits of gravel in the New Forest. And before you know it, you're back off that road and onto some nice little single track gravel, I call it. It follows the road, pretty flat, but it's quite fun to weave around along here. So about to go underneath the A31 and then onto one of my favourite bits of gravel. A few bits of up and a few bits of down. Get to the road. Ooh. Not used this camera for a while. The last time I used it was on my dad's quad bike when he was racing. Now just after that downhill, as we turn right, it's the next spooky spot, well more of a mythical spot. It's over there, whether the camera picks it up very well or not, it's like a mound, and that's Yergate's Nap. And Yergate was a giant who used to roam the New Forest, and he used to get really angry at people for taking too much wood, and one day he got so cross that he threw a man all the way to the moon. Yergate's Nap is where the giant used to sleep, and because he was so big and heavy, the earth mounded up behind him. So be careful if you're out in the New Forest, because that giant could throw you all the way to the moon. So although the giant got a nice rest, there's no rest for us as we come through Lyndhurst bottom, about to go up a short sharp climb and takes us to some of that champagne gravel. And that's the top, and then we're on to this lovely gravel, the good stuff, the stuff we want to ride. Yeah, so we're on this now for a good few miles with a good few gates to open and close. Nice. Definitely a horse, not a ghost. Although if you want to add some extra thrill to this ride, you could do it at night time, because these woods can be a little bit spooky in the dark. Colours are awesome though, bracken turning brown. You've got some of the greens of the evergreen trees, leaves turning on the other trees, sun shining through. Hopefully if you do this route it'll be sunny as well. But it's just lovely to be out in this sort of environment. The stress of the week burning away, wonderful. And we're now beginning a little drag through the forest up to the top, which will run parallel along the A31. It's not very long, it's about 1 kilometre, so there's not too many hills on this route. A few little short sharp ones, but nothing like the Alps. Pretty much at the top now in the open, in the sunshine, and on this stunning bit of gravel. The sort of gravel you came here for, the stuff you heard about, the champagne gravel. Stunning. Coming back into the woods. These can be a little bit spooky at night time, and we're going to be dropping back downhill onto another gravel segment, and this one didn't close on its own. Always extra fun. So there's still another 2 miles, 3.5k of this lovely gravel that'll take us onto an old runway. On him. And colours through here, stunning. Even better than that first bit, more oranges and reds, lovely. So just got to go over this little New Forest road. Not busy, you might be able to hear the roar of the A31 in the background, which is busy, but we're not going on that. And just turning onto the road, so you can hear it's a little bit breezy up here. Former airfield during the Second World War. I'm about to head onto a runway, which is now a road, but before we reach there, I've got a cheeky little turn off to see one of the many mysteries of the New Forest. Going right, Ocknell Pond. Oh. This pond turns red with the blood of King Rufus. Someone we'll hear a bit more about in a minute. We're going to find out whether it's red today or whether it's just pond colour. Supposedly every year the pond turns a mysterious red colour, and it's rumoured that you can see a black hound called Tyrrell's dog appearing as a death omen, and there is a dog, a black dog. Hopefully that is not a death omen. It turns red with the blood of King William Rufus, killed by Sir William Tyrrell, who is said to have washed his hands here after the deed. But as you can see, it looks pretty pond-like today. Slightly worried about that dog we just saw for the myth, but hopefully we'll make it around the rest of the route. You also might be wondering why I'm on a mountain bike, not my gravel bike, because it's a gravel route. Well, the issue is the gravel bike has another problem. You might remember I did these routes last winter on my mountain bike because my gravel bike had a broken right shifter. Well, I fixed the right shifter. I rode that bike from Spain back to the UK in the summer, and there's a video of that on the channel. But unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, out in the New Forest with some friends, the left shifter broke. So it needs another new shifter. So again, it's probably another £150 expense on a gravel bike, which probably only cost me about £1,000 to begin with. And we're onto that former runway with a good tailwind. And just before we get to the A31 dual carriageway down there, we turn left here. But yeah, another lovely little stretch of gravel. Yeah, lovely little bit of gravel along here. You can get some great speed, super fun, flat and fast. Quite a quick bit again, especially with a tailwind. Before we go underneath the A31 towards Minstead, take a cheeky left here, following the sign, take us to our next spot. Just onto this little road. Only a couple hundred-metre detour really. Yeah, this is the next spot, Rufus Stone. See, here stood the oak tree on which an arrow shot by Sir Walter Tyrrell at a stag glanced and struck King William II, surnamed Rufus, on the beast, on which he instantly died. Eventually dragged along to Winchester behind a horse, buried in the cathedral grounds. Now if you come here at night time, on the right day, you might even see the ghost of King Rufus. So I'm going to stick to coming here in the day, and I'm going to crack on now in case it gets dark. And as we ride back up towards the gravel, you can imagine Sir William Tyrrell running across the forest there and washing his hands, trying to escape after his accidental, some say, hunting accident. And this little bit of hill is quite steep. The classic trying to talk to the camera, not being able to change gear, and then grinding up, seat at the top. Back on the gravel, I wanted to try and tell a bit more of a story at Rufus Stone, but there are quite a lot of people there, and it's always quite embarrassing talking to the camera. You'll have to read the stone yourself to find out more about King Rufus and the terrible fate that he met down by Rufus Stone. And we go back under the A31 with a cheeky whoop whoop. Not gonna lie, that was a pretty decadent tunnel whoop. Our next stop on the route is Lyndhurst, and on the right, not that it looks exciting from here, but it's Fursey Gardens, and in the gardens there's lots of fairy houses that you can find. So a little bit more folklore from the New Forest there. Not a stop for us today, but somewhere that's well worth a visit, whether you like gardening or fairies. Stretch on the road now, mostly quiet little lanes. So pretty quiet as we come into Emery Down, and we've got a little short, sharp climb out of Emery Down. Not too bad. Now onto one of the busier bits. Just coming into Lyndhurst. It's quite busy today, but it is a lovely sunny day, and it is the start of half term down here in Hampshire. Lots of cafes, restaurants, pubs, that sort of thing here. Good point to stop for some refreshments, and there's a very good bike shop called Wood Cyclery. Wood's coming up on the right. Ferrari's on the left. What do you prefer, gravel bike or a Ferrari? Let me know below. This is the next spot. Bolton's Bench, just outside Lyndhurst, or on the edge of Lyndhurst, where we have another run-in with that pesky Bisterne Dragon. But this is supposedly where that dragon met his end. He irritated the forest enough that Sir Maurice Berkeley was brought in at night to chase it off. Sir Maurice battled the dragon, crossed the New Forest from Burley all the way to Lyndhurst, where the dragon crashed here, and as you can see, formed this lump just by Lyndhurst called Bolton's Bench. So I'll wander up, have a quick look, and then crack on. Nice little view. Nice place to grab a sandwich. But with the dragon out of the way, it's time for us to crack on back onto some lovely gravel. Let's go. So a little stretch of road out of Lyndhurst down towards Denny's Wood for the next bit of gravel. It's not too busy, and it's mostly downhill, so enjoy yourself and relax those legs. Turn off that road into Denny's Wood campsite, closed now for winter, but this takes us back onto some amazing gravel. And this time of year all these roads are closed to traffic because they're in the campsite, which is lovely. Oh crikey, speed bumps, so watch out for those. Back into some lovely woods, some more gates to open and shut. It's a lovely place to spend some time, nice and quiet, away from any traffic and cars. That's why we love gravel riding. And the scariest thing about these woods, for me anyway, is that it's quite easy to get lost, because all the tracks and all the trails look very similar. And there's so many of them, there's miles of it. But with the route on the Garmin, you should be okay. Hopefully not get lost. But most of the gravel around here is great all year. Midwinter, yeah, it gets a little bit damp, but not much more than it is today, to be honest. Stuff a gravel bike's actually designed for, rather than the edge of fields, which most of us encounter when we go for our gravel rides. So we're out of those lovely gravel trails through those woods, come out of Hawks Hill, and now we're onto some old perimeter roads of a former World War II air base down near Burley. Some of this concrete's a bit bumpy. Oh, it's windy along here. We're in the back end of a campsite now. Again, keeping off the roads, we can wind our way off-road as much as possible. Just leaving Roundhill campsite, cross over this road here, and then back into some woods for some bonus gravel before we get back to Brockenhurst. New Cops Cottage. I thought it said New Corpse Cottage for a minute, which would have been in keeping with the ride, but luckily just New Cops. Be relieved to know this is the last gate of the day. Take us down to Burley Road, and perhaps some beer, a coffee, or a big slice of cake. And here we are, back Brockenhurst train station. Hopefully enjoyed that ride. If you did, I've got more routes and adventures on my channel, so check them out. If you did enjoy the route, I'd appreciate a like, maybe a subscription for more routes later on. Now you're done, why not check out Brockenhurst? And there are a few more tales to be told, so perhaps check out Snakecatcher Pub and see what that's all about. Anyway, see you in the next one. Hello. Always be careful of the horses.